Welcome to Health, Wealth, and Legacy. I'm your host, Sam Abdallah. Our goal is to bring leaders, thought leaders, education to inspire, empower, and motivate you to expand your mindset, grow, and live your best possible life in the areas of health, wealth, financial freedom, and legacy. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. So I'm here with David Nagel, who's a mindset coach, a very special guest of ours today. He's for entrepreneurs with Life Is Now, Inc., business owners and CEOs, helping businesses and owners grow and take control of their results as well as mindset. So David, welcome to the show and give us an introduction as well for yourself.
Oh, thanks for having me. Well, I think you said it. I'm a mindset sales coach for entrepreneurs, small business owners. Been doing it for about 25 years now. And it's been a beautiful journey. We've helped thousands of businesses around the world get better at what they do.
It's incredible. So you went through a journey yourself. I know you probably share this a lot on your podcast and your story to inspire others. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you were able to, level up your way of thinking and how you realized this is something you want to do to help people with their mindset.
So, my journey is kind of interesting in the fact that depends on where I start the story. When I was a kid, without going into my childhood in any great depth, because I don't think it really matters for this conversation, let's just put it like this. I had questions about what I was experiencing in life and versus what I was being taught, like in school and in church, that type of thing. They didn't seem to mesh at all, but I couldn't get any answers either. Nobody seemed to be able to answer the questions that I had. So those questions never went away, but probably in my teenage years, I wasn't pursuing them all that much because I didn't know where, when, how to pursue them. There was no Google back in those days, right? So any information you wanted, you had to go to a library or something. So, and then I tried a little bit, but I didn't have anybody giving me any direction. Anyway, long story short, I quit high school at 17 years old, decided to go out on my own. I ended up getting married, having 2 kids. And I find myself after a few years, just basically driving a forklift on a dock because I have no other education. My responsibilities grew to such a state that I was incapable of handling them. It wasn't that I didn't want to handle them. I just couldn't because I could not get a job that could support the family. Like one morning we woke up and they repossessed our car. We ended up filing for bankruptcy. We had to move 50 miles, 60 miles away from where we were living just to be able to afford something that wasn't in a good neighborhood. We were on food stamps for a period of time. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bleak. And my focus for the 2 years that everything was crashing around me, my focus was on how can I earn more money, because I thought money was the cause of the problem that I had. And I thought money would get me out of the problem that I had. And even at that point, I was asking people, what do you think I should do? I said, look, I get it. I shouldn't have quit high school. I should have stayed, because everybody kept saying you should have stayed in high school. Like, yeah, I told you so is great, but it's not helping the situation, And all they could say was, well, you're right. You shouldn't have quit high school. I guess you better work as hard as you can now. I don't know what to tell you. What I didn't know is I was asking the wrong people. I wasn't asking anybody that had ever done anything much different than the way that I was approaching life. Hence is probably why I was approaching life the way that I was. So after about 2 years of going through this, I had a really bad night, a bad day, a bad night. I was working. It was February. It was Chicago. It was on a dock. I got reprimanded twice before I started work. And I was sitting in this dock. Everything was going wrong. And I just started crying. I had lost it. Like I was having an emotional meltdown in the back of this trailer. And I said, God, if you're there, show me something. Show me how to get out. I'll do whatever it takes. I don't care what it is, but show me something I don't know what to do. And literally a voice in my head said, David, change your attitude. And it literally sounded like it was outside of me. Like I looked for a moment. It was so significant. I got my composure back. I stopped crying. I sat there and I thought, what is this? What is this? So I started playing with that idea. I played with it all that night while I was finishing work, all the way home. I drove 60 miles to work each way. I didn't sleep much the next day, and I said, I'm going to start doing this tomorrow. But what I thought was, I don't know what an attitude is. I had no idea. Like if somebody said, David, change your attitude, which I heard the whole time I was a kid, I had no idea what they meant to actually change. So I picked a gentleman that owned the company that I worked for because he had a pretty incredible story. He started the company. He was the largest food importer in the United States at the time. And he was responsible for everything from Evian water that people would drink to all different kinds of spices and delicacies that came from all over the world. It was a really cool company. But he started it in his garage right out of high school or right out of college, something like that. And he built it into this huge conglomerate. It was a major company. And I thought, what's the difference between him and me? From an attitude perspective, the way that I understand attitude, what's the difference? And I narrowed it down to three things that night. He must have loved what he did. He must have done everything to the best of his ability, which I knew that I wasn't. I was not working to do good. I was working to go home, put in the hours, get the little bit of pay, get out of Dodge. And the other thing was that I noticed something about this guy that seemed to contradict what I heard about successful people growing up. I don't know. Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I grew up hearing that successful people were basically assholes, that they were jerks. Yeah. And this guy was not. Because he had one of the first major automated warehouses on the ground level, all these other CEOs and companies would come in and they would get to take tours of our plant, and he would walk them through. Well, when he would do this, obviously he had to walk past the employees that were on the floor. Most of our employees, we had probably 85% Hispanic people. A lot of them didn't even speak English. He would never walk past an employee without acknowledging them in some way. And I thought to myself, this is not what I heard. And it didn't really stand out to me that much until I started thinking, what's the difference between him and me? And it dawned on me that out of all the things, this stood out to me. These were the three things that stood out to me. So by the next morning, I decided the three things in my attitude that I were going to change were I was going to act like I love what I did. I was going to do every job to the best of my ability, which I had no idea what that meant at the time. But I found out real quick. And I was going to treat everybody with total respect, because my anger and my self-pity and my victimized mindset was taking it out on others. I mean, I really wasn't like I was that much of an impolite person or anything, but I had gone off the deep end as far as whose fault my life was at that time. And I was blaming other people. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop that. So I was making $20,000 a year when I made that decision that night. 30 days later, I was making $62,000 a year. I got no further education. And when this happened, I was so shocked that it actually happened that I sat back and I said to myself, what caused this? What did I actually do? Because this was not supposed to happen. Now, let me just tell you how significant that number is. Nobody in my family was making $62,000 a year. The town that I grew up in, it's a suburb right outside of Chicago. It's called Berwyn. The median income was $20,000 a year. I mean, I was fitting right in the slot of where I was raised. Right. To triple that was extraordinarily significant in 1993. This put me on a path for 7 years of studying, going to seminars, finding my mentor, all of this. Because the question in my mind was, if I understand what I just did, then I could probably recreate my life exactly the way that I want. So the significance part where it wasn't supposed to happen, it didn't happen by going back to school. It wasn't luck, right? Because everybody kept saying, oh, you're really lucky. You just keep doing what you're doing. You're really lucky. And I'm like, I know it's not luck. I knew enough to know it wasn't luck. It was something that I did. And that was my journey out of that space. I went to work for a company, petroleum distributor. It was called Direct Fill. They would drive trucks out onto where you needed diesel fuel, and they would fill your equipment. And this was in Chicago. And when I went to work for them, I was driving a truck, And when I left, I was in charge of expanding the company across the country 7 years later. And I never went a day back to school. It was all my own doing and mindset and understanding what I did. So then I turned it into a career from that point on. And that was 25 years ago.
There's a lot to unpack. That's incredible. Thanks for sharing that. I've heard it many
Yeah.
times. I think it's definitely inspiring to hear where you've been, where you are now, and how you help others. It seems like you went on a spiritual journey and also realized becoming aware of these different thought patterns and different ways of being and thinking and acting as if sort of the bead you have in a way to now be aware of a different level of consciousness. How difficult was it for you to break out of that indoctrination of the middle class mindset, and that when you're in that, you almost seem that's the reality and that's the way it is, and there's no looking at any other options? And the language even shows with that mindset as well.
It wasn't easy. That's it's 100% act. That's a great question. Most people don't ask me that question, but it was not easy. In the beginning, it wasn't. I did not know how much of my life I needed to let go of and significantly change to get out of that mindset. So it was a process, and it was a long process. However, it got much easier once I got a mentor. So when I was doing it on my own, I was kind of just stumbling through it, based on books, and I took my car because at this point, my job changed. So I was driving 100 miles to work one way every day. So 3 to 3.5 hours in the car every day, just traveling to and from work. Instead of listening to music, I started getting books on tape, seminars on tape, autobiographies on tape. And I turned my car into a library. And I just started listening to everything I could get my hands on. And I would slowly start making changes based on the things that I was listening to, how it stood out for me, and then what I heard the recommended changes were. So I would just start. It was like one thing at a time that I would start making these changes. And I mean, ultimately, I had to change all my friends. My marriage changed. The neighborhood that I lived in changed. I mean, literally every single thing changed in my life over a period of time. But in the beginning, it was not easy. There were some really difficult things. And another thing that made it not easy, I really did not have anybody supporting me from "you can do this" on my side of the fence. Yeah. I had some support from my spouse at the time, but from everybody else in my family thought I was off my rocker. And the things that I were doing were highly irresponsible, because I was not, in their mind, it was like, you need to stay at this one little job, make sure you have health insurance, you got a family now, you've got to be responsible, don't mess this up like the things that you've messed up in the past. And that wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. I wanted to go after more. So coming to terms with the people in my life proved to be the most challenging part of my growth through all of my growth.
I love that you said that, because it's almost like you have to sometimes get on a plane to see someone, to see a friend that's sort of influencing in a way that you'd like to be, or where you'd like to be, or adding value to your life. So it seems like a lot of middle class, or that mindset, I should say, not middle class, but they adopt the value of safety.
They do.
Automatically, right? The way they show up, the way
they do.
When we hire, we do the same thing. What
and you're right,
do?
Middle class. I mean, that's a great. So the way that I usually explain it is from the professional class, doctors, lawyers, people that need a higher degree, but basically they're stuck in a systemized way of making money, right? Because of the degree.
Selling your home during tough times, whether you're downsizing, divorce, or debt, we understand the unique challenges you're facing. Introducing our specialized real estate solution to help you navigate these difficult times with ease. Selling a home can be overwhelming, and yet our experienced team will guide you through the process, providing personalized strategies to maximize your home's value. Whether you're downsizing, going through a divorce, facing debt, we'll help you sell your home and start anew. Don't let these challenges define your selling experience. Let us turn them into opportunities. Visit our website at affluenceregroup.com to learn more.
Down through your middle class, down into your working class, and even into the poorer sections of the economy, the mindset's the same. Safety is number one. So it's don't take too many risks. Save, all your nickels. Don't step outside of the paradigm that you're in. Don't ask too much. Don't question too many things. That's the mindset that is.
It's interesting because in the 5 levels video you posted, and I'd love to post at some point, but that was talking about how you get an opportunity. I believe you act as if, and then you get an opportunity and you say yes to it without even being ready. And I find that everything I've done has always been that way too. It's been a little bit of fear. You say yes to it. You're not quite ready. You take the next step. You develop a confidence, which is trusting yourself. It's really, really interesting that comes about. So when you're, I guess, coaching people, do you find out the way they think based on their language and their value system? And do you sort of go backwards into their upbringing, but into their value system, and sort of do like combination of things to help lift that ceiling or break that barrier? Because it seems like you had something that was just broken and it allowed you to open up
Yeah.
your thought process.
Well, the first thing that I do is I want to know what a person wants. And based how they answer that question tells me a lot about where they're coming from based on their own story. Because most people in life, and I do mean most people, are not going after what they want, even if they think they are. They're going after what they think they can accomplish. And that is set by a lot of story that they have believed in since they were kids. Even when I do a goal-setting exercise with people that come to a seminar or something, 99% of them are picking things that they think they could accomplish. And the reason is because if you ask the average person what they want, they actually don't know. And the reason that they don't know is because the way that they were raised, they were taught they can't have what they want. So they have settled, probably since they were 10, into an idea that I have to follow the status quo for however I was raised. And they pick, so it's like the illusion of choice. Here's the college courses that you can pick from. It's your choice, right? But I can't think outside of that box. Here's the careers that you could go into. Here's a list of those, right? It's the illusion of choice. So they're picking the best of the worst, right? So when I ask a person, what do you want? I'm listening for, where are they in that journey? Are they still picking the best of the worst, or have they stepped out of that and then dealing with them from that aspect? Because here's the key. You asked me, was it difficult in this journey? If I wasn't going after something I really wanted, there's no way I would have made the journey. Everybody finds a place to stop if they're not actually going after something that they truly want, because safety will only take you so far. You're not going to get too uncomfortable for too long if safety or the status quo is the goal.
That's interesting. So it seems like when someone has, and I remember you said something about when the desire appears, the supply is already there. Maybe if you can elaborate on that, because I was thinking that it's not that the skill appears, but the desire to gain the skill. You can get lost in that skill. You have a natural gift to go for that skill, to go deep in mastery. What are your thoughts on that? Like when it comes to finding that, when someone's looking to find that or to hone in on that and to create it as a skill to start actually monetizing in the marketplace to, create value and obviously income and impact.
So that question that you're asking me actually started as a question for myself when I was a kid, based on two things that I was exposed to. One was that I grew up in nature a lot because we spent almost every weekend in the summer up in Wisconsin, hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, that type of thing. Absolutely loved nature and the outdoors. And my religious education was basically teaching me that God created everything. God created everything out of love. God loves everything. And I started asking this question, like, how come, based on my observation, animals seem to not have any of the problems that human beings have, right? They don't wonder who they are. They don't worry every day, about where they're going to get what they need. You don't see them in line at the psychiatrist, right? They're not on Prozac. They don't have a drinking problem. Like all the problems that human beings have. And they don't have to go to school to learn what they need to learn in order to survive, which can be pretty complex once you start to study nature. It's kind of like, this is interesting that this much information is passed down through instinct, So I thought, why would human beings that have this most marvelous intellect, why would we be put into this world without any internal compass that tells us which way to go, like all of nature? And through my study, and my own self-observation, I came to realize that it's not that we don't have an internal compass. It's that it's not encouraged. What's encouraged is to follow what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. The outside world that's created for us before we're born. Everybody has an internal compass, but you have to start getting in touch with what it is. And it starts like when I meet any person, that getting in touch with that internal compass is getting honest about what they truly want and what they don't want in life. That's the beginning of the journey to find out the direction that they're going to go. So what's fascinating about that is that when you're so like if you look at this like a lineage or a hierarchy, everybody has a purpose, just like every form of nature has a purpose. Your purpose was here before you were. You came into this life to fulfill a purpose. So everything that you need to fulfill that purpose is already here. And all the people that you have to work with in order to fulfill it, they're already here. The only thing that's not here is you understanding that you have this purpose. When you understand it, you're immediately drawn to it. So you start to understand, you start to see opportunities, doors start to open, clarity starts to show up. You begin to work on the skill sets that are necessary for you to develop to fulfill that purpose. You want to continue whatever education you may need in order for that to happen. It's a natural unfolding, just like everything is in nature. And you're not running around trying to sabotage yourself, or not trying, but sabotaging yourself based on past ideas. You have all of the like the motivation. People always say, how do you get more motivation? By following your purpose. All the drive that you need is already there. Once you get into harmony with that idea, you'll wake up every day and you'll be like, I absolutely love what I do. It's not, oh my God, I got to go do that. How long do I have to do this? So I have to do this for 30 years. This is crazy, right? You want to participate in what it is that you're doing. And I'm not saying that it's not challenging and that there won't be times of difficulty, but we don't have a problem with challenge and difficulty when we're doing what we love. We only have a problem with it when we're doing something that we've convinced ourselves to do that we don't actually like to do.
That's really, really powerful. So it's almost like an internal knowing and being in harmony. I found that as a business owner, I sort of was doing that without realizing what exactly was happening. Like you're following a guide, a step, you're taking that step, you're writing your goals, you're figuring something next, and you're always thinking about growing and like you said too, I remember the success mechanism. I think that was in psychocybernetics, but he was talking about like birds just naturally know how to fly up north for the winter or down south, right? They just know there's a success mechanism already built in there. They don't have to figure out how to flap their wings and all that, right? So I thought that was really, really interesting. So
Absolutely true.
I know you talk a lot about subconscious mind, and I'd like to dive a little bit about that. I know The Science of Getting Rich. It's an amazing book. Recently just read it and listened to it also in your practices. What are the key elements that someone should be aware of? Like subconscious mind controls what 95% of the actions. What are some things that people can do to really take control of their subconscious mind and realize this messaging that may not serve them when it comes to the collective, or the collective energy around controlling people and indoctrinating them into a certain way of thinking, you think?
So have you read Think and Grow Rich?
I have, yes. I read a contributed copy, but it was added stuff to it. So okay. I did Rich. Yeah, I did Rich. I did read it. It was fantastic. So yeah.
Okay. So here's something that's interesting about the book. I think everybody should read that book. When you read the book, Napoleon Hill says there's a secret in the book, but he's not going to tell you what the secret is. It's best left that way so that when you uncover it, you will realize that you're actually uncovering the secret. So here's something that's fascinating about this book. He studied 500 of the world's most successful people. And then the first copy of Think and Grow Rich was actually called Success Principles or something like that. I don't know if there were 17. I forget how many there were. And then the revision of that was the classic Think and Grow Rich that we know of.
Our wealth creation partner, 33/7. 33/7 creates wealth for entrepreneurs. They've used financial structuring to 10x families' net worth. Now we show others how to do it. They make rich entrepreneurial families richer. For more information, visit 337.com to learn more.
So when most people read that book, it's very heavy on this is what you have to do to change your subconscious mind and all this information. So they look at it and they read it as if it's a manual for how to actually change their mind. But here's something that most people just don't notice about this book, that all of the principles that he wrote down in that book were commonalities that he gathered from 500 of the world's most successful people. And these were things that were different about them, but they were natural because these people were following their path in life. Every single thing in Think and Grow Rich the idea is not to have to install it into your subconscious mind. It's already there, but it will only come out as the principles of success when you're actually following the thing that you love to do in life. Animals follow everything that's in Think and Grow Rich. And I think that's the biggest secret of that book is when you find the thing that your life is meant to be, everything in the book all of a sudden makes sense. Because typically what people do is they pick up the book, right? And they're looking at it and they're like, okay, step one, confirm to yourself every day until your subconscious mind accepts this idea. And then they're reading it on a card and it's constantly going in. So I did that for years too. But I was missing something within that process. And I said, if I'm really doing the thing that I love, do I have to do that? Do I have to get my mind to accept it? And the answer is no, you don't. Your mind has already accepted it. Now, that doesn't mean that you might not have value conflicts with things that you were taught in the world, but you will resolve those over time. Like one value conflict is that money is kind of like a necessary evil, right? So in your subconscious mind, it may be in there that money is not a good thing, which is then causing you not to make as much money as you actually want, because what you have is a financial set point that's undisclosed to you. You don't really know what it is, but it was basically set by the way that you were raised. So through understanding what it is and through understanding some steps on how to break through it, you could change it. But the amount that you want is already in you. So it's not about installing that in you. It's about uncovering the lie that you think is the thing that you should be doing that you're not actually doing. But to answer specifically what you asked me, we reprogram our subconscious mind through one of two ways: constant spaced repetition or a sudden emotional impact. So anything that we consistently do over and over and over again, we will turn into a habit subconsciously. But you must do it consistently for about a period of 90 days. If you miss one day, you start back at ground zero again. That's how it turns into a habit.
So subconscious mind responds to feeling as well, right? Like impressing
Correct.
upon image and feeling.
Correct. Because everything in life that you were taught that you have a feeling about, somebody else told you how to feel about it.
Yeah, you're right. I almost feel like everybody does have to go through like a rebirth in that sense too. And that's where you have, and I've experienced it too with people in my life, completely had to make intuitive choices to make different choices. And you still forgive and love in a certain way, but you have your own life and you're moving upon in your own direction. So what you said is you're uncovering the lie that's covering the natural inclination of what you're actually really passionate about, what your purpose is. And that becomes so synchronicity to everything you're doing that's where you know you're on the right path, right?
Exactly.
That's incredible. So I remember we talked about financial set point. I remember when we did an exercise in this one mindset thing, but they were talking about your financial set point, and how you talked about it too. Your mind will go to a certain amount of income, and then once you get past that a certain level, then you automatically bring it down, or vice versa, you bring it back up. What are some ways other than the programming that someone can overcome that, or to be aware of that programming? Is it the, spending the money and the on the website without actually buying it? What are your thoughts on that? Like, how does it become where someone can feel good about
there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that. So let me give you the nuts and bolts of this that will make the most sense.
Yep.
We literally do have a financial set point in our mind. And I don't care how many goals you set for yourself. if it is someplace in your mind, if it's not okay to earn more than this specific number that's in your head, you will sabotage yourself every time you try to do this. This has been studied. It's first started to be studied with sales teams in major organizations all the way back in the 50s and the 60s. They could not figure out how the chunk of the middle salespeople, they could never get them to go any higher. And they were just as good as somebody who was an amazing salesperson, right? They couldn't figure out what is the psychology to be able to do this. And they never really figured it out. So the problem is that we have an unconscious idea in our mind of what will go wrong if we go above that number. That's suggested to us as a child. So the number is not like a 1, 2, 3 number. The number is based on this word, need, because we're raised with the idea you don't need that. Don't spend more than you need.
Yes.
Don't take more than you need. Don't do more than you need, right? So need is then a perceptive experience as a human being, right? How I choose to live my life is based on what I think I need. How you choose to live your life is based on what you think you need. It stays very close together based on the neighborhoods that we live in, on the social dynamics that we're exposed to. But it's not being chosen by how we say we want to live our life. So in order to break through it, you need to get very clear on how you want to live your life. And then you need to figure out what is it going to cost you to be able to do that. So the number's real. And it's not based on need. And you're not picking it based on need. You're picking it based on desire. So then the idea is this, that you have to consistently do what's necessary to earn that income beyond your top income, what you've earned. And the thing is not how much it is. The thing is to be able to break through it consistently. So what I have people do is I say, because earning money is based on the law of cause and effect, right? And the cause of making money is sales. So whether it's you or the business that you're in, how many more sales are you going to commit to this month in order to go beyond that number, right? So let's say a person's making $50,000 a year and they want to make $500,000 a year, okay? All right. Well, we know how much you're selling to make $50,000 a year. Now, what we want to do is we want to get it in our subconscious mind. So this is an automatic program. So I do it all the time without even having to think about it. So I might raise it to 60,000 first. And then we break it down mathematically. Are you willing to do everything that's necessary without any excuses and be absolutely convicted that you will do this to make the 60,000? Here's what you have to do. Here's the number of calls. Here's the number of people you need to talk to. We break it all down mathematically. We get their agreement, right? This is so then we hold them to that agreement. And the idea is that we have to break through it, and then we have to break through it again, and then we have to break through it again. So we're developing a new habit internally that we do what we say we're going to do.
Yes. Yes.
Because the problem is not the number. The problem is the consistency in our behavior to get to the number. If you fix that problem, it doesn't matter what the number is. You'll always get there.
That's a huge aha. It's almost like you're creating a mental pattern of success, because a lot of people, they get excited, the motivation just wears off, and then they're no longer pursuing the original goal, and they go to something else that they think is going to work, but it's actually causing them to just find something that's not going to move the needle or not going to help them get to that next
And the
level.
motivation always wears off something that you truly don't want.
That is very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. So I know you had a principle of the 5 levels. Someone's looking to go from this income to this income or grow in their business. What are some things you do with your business owners and program that you have available for anybody that's listening, that you can do to help them break through the mindset, and also that levels exercise that you said you're earning this, you're here, here's how we're going to create the mental pattern of success, and here's how we're going to break the financial ceiling. Is it all those things you mentioned? Is there anything you'd like to add in that sense too?
The only thing that we do is that we put them through a 90-day program where they have to pick a goal. The goal doesn't matter. What matters is that they're consistent for 90 days. Because most people don't believe that that's where the problem exists, in their consistency. So I work with them 7 days a week for 90 days every morning, right? We do it in a group of people because the idea is if you can change the pattern at where it's causing the problem. So the idea is that I have to learn to be my word. In other words, if I say I'm going to do something, I have to be able to do it. If I don't have the ability to do that, I will never become the success that I want. People don't like starting there, though. They want to start at something that's a little sexier than that. But that's not the problem. The problem is that they don't know how to be their word. They have not integrated the idea that if they say that they're going to do something, that they have the ability, not only have the ability to do it, but they can do it at will. So we start off there. They pick a goal that meets two criteria. Number one, it's something that they want in their life. They absolutely want it in their life. Number two, they're willing to do whatever it takes to get it. If they're not willing, if it doesn't meet those two criteria, you can't pick it as a goal. It has to have those two criteria. So then they set the goal for 90 days. Now, here's the thing. It's not important that they hit the goal in 90 days. That's not the important part either. The important part is that every day, 7 days a week, they do what they say they're going to do to hit the goal. Now, we might think,
oh, go ahead. Oh, it's almost like you're saying you're creating a box for habits to grow out of, and they're going to be big enough goals so then the box can get bigger and bigger rather than small habits that's going to confine someone.
Right. And so the behavior turns into a habit, but so does the constitution of saying, I will do this, right? They can rely on that in and of themselves, which is extraordinary because if I can keep my word, there's no level of success I can't accomplish.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. I remember Myron Golden was saying something about confidence is to trust, right? And so if your internal dialogue, if you don't trust what you're saying to yourself on the inside, or you haven't kept your own word, your external dialogue's not going to show up as far as confidence or communication with others.
It won't. That's absolutely correct.
So is that
and you won't learn how to trust other people. You won't learn how to trust life, and you won't learn how to trust God if you can't trust yourself. It all starts with you being able to keep your word to yourself.
And I feel like that's when the next sort of nudges, you get other nudges for other things to follow and take action on and continue growing in that sense. So, when someone says, the business is working on you even when you don't know it to become the person that will generate that income. How true do you feel that is? And what does that mean to you when you think of that?
Well, it's 100% true because the business is always showing you what is required of you to help that business to be able to move forward, right? Whenever you set a goal, like, okay, I have a company, I'm going to set a goal. What's 100% true is that it's the ability to reach that goal is there, but I have to become the person that can run the business to the place where it hits that goal. So it's always about me doing the growth that's necessary to hit that objective that I want.
Gotcha. So I know we talked about programming and middle-class beliefs. I think we went over that. Are you finding right now, I know you talked about, not to go too long on this, but the different ideas in life on whether it's Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, and you talk about that. Is that sort of like things that are woven into the kind of middle class or the poverty programming, if you will? Like I remember Myron was talking about superheroes and how the superhero they'd always fight someone that has money, right? So they subconsciously put in the child's mind that having money is bad and that the superhero is fighting for the good. But yeah, what are your thoughts on, like, I guess those paradigms that you have to look out for, or maybe dig up and really make sure that you're in a place where you can start leveling yourself up and doing what you say you're going to do, so you're ready to take that next step and really commit?
I think that a lot of the fables that we grow up with are innocent for the most part in and of themselves. I think a lot of the parables have started with great intentions. The problem is at the time of life that we're given those things, it sets our mind open to the idea of magical thinking because it's not based on true cause and effect. Not Santa, not the Tooth Fairy, not the Easter Bunny, not anyone that you can come up with is based on cause and effect. It's all magical thinking. Now, The problem with this is that if you do not take a child and literally show them how to acquire what they want by cause and effect, it's really hit or miss. It's random. They're not getting really solid information on what the cause of something is in their life. Earning money, the cause of earning money is not going to work for a job. That is not what makes money move. That you're being paid for time in that situation. Somebody is agreeing to give you money for something that you're doing. That is not sales, right? The only thing that moves money is sales. So if I agree to go to work for somebody else, I really don't know what the cause of money is. That's why we have so many people that are entitled that have jobs, because they actually don't understand how money works. So they think that it's just something that, well, you must have a lot of money because you have a company and you're rich and you should give me some because I deserve it. And that's where the magical thinking comes in, because they don't have a basis to think any other way. And in a lot of cases, they've literally been taught that that wealthy people are keeping them from having the money. Now, what is true is that the wealthy are consistently taking it from them, but not like they think they're taking it from them. They're taking it from them because they buy everything the wealthy creates. They don't know how to save their money. They don't know how to invest their money, and they don't know how to make more if for some reason they seem to be running short. But if you have the right mindset, there is no wealthy person that can keep you down or prevent you from making money. I used to think the same thing when I was a kid. And then I realized that was not true, that the only person that was stopping me from making money was myself. There is no, I know how it can look that way. And I know that maybe there's companies that are greedy and, but there's always a bad egg in everything, right? It's not that you can't blame it on the money and you can't blame it on the entity of a corporation. It's the people within that they're either good people or they're not. But it's not keeping you from making money. Your own ignorance is keeping you from making money. That's what the truth is.
Do you find that we're moving more into a skill-based economy where you have to get forced to develop skills that are going to solve a problem for someone, and people are more aware of it since 2020 now that this is a new way to make money and they're more accepting and open to this idea rather than trading time for money or just limited
Well, I think
income?
more people are being aware that the key to making money is to figure out a way to do it on their own. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, sort of like understanding that is skill-based. I remember with Robert Kiyosaki always talks about like how network marketing is that like gateway into entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
and it's true. It seems like it's the skills and the things translate into what you do
Yeah.
and being a business owner and so
Yeah.
forth. So
Yeah, that's how I started in the 90s. My first introduction to being an entrepreneur or business was through multi-level marketing. I did that for a few years before I started out on my own. And it taught me an extraordinary amount of information. And I met some of the best mindset people in the country because they all those people sold product in network marketing companies: Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, Robert Kiyosaki, Mark Victor Hansen. And that was, but then I got great information from those people. So that's what made all the difference in the world. So yeah.
Awesome. Got a couple minutes left just to respect your time, but I still appreciate you being on here. If you could provide like with the universal laws and how it relates to money and allowing someone to achieve success versus someone who stayed in poverty or not as successful, what are things that they're doing as far as relating to the universal laws that they're following to allow them to achieve the success that they want in the life that they want and to grow and do what they say they're going to do and continuously break ceilings, you think?
So there's three things that a person has to move into the truth center of their mind. Number one, the thing that they want or desire is always here. People have got to give up their belief in lack. That's a lie that humanity has perpetrated on itself. There is no lack. Now, if you're going to stay stuck with that mindset, you're always going to have trouble, because it's a lie. And then you adjust your thinking and the way that you live based on that lie. But it's absolutely not true, right? So a person's going to have to go find their own way out of that if they don't want to just believe what I'm saying. And that's totally fine. But that's number one. The money has to be, everything needs to be here. The money, the resources, the product, everything has to be here. Number two, if you don't have money, you have money. So that is the law of polar opposites. Okay. There is a law called the law of polarity. This law in the beginning was my go-to for almost everything because I was raised with the idea that there's not enough. And if there's not enough, that's the truth. And if that's the truth, you have to adjust to that truth. Okay. When I learned this law, the law of polarity, everything in my life changed. Because basically what it said is that everything in the universe has an opposite side. It's equal and opposite, and it's connected in the middle. So this has a left and a right and a left, an up and a down, an inside and outside, right? And it's connected in the middle. You can't have one side without the other. This is for everything in the universe, physical and non-physical. So when I say I don't have money, at the same time I do, I just don't know what it looks like because I think money is, a handful of dollar bills. And that's a problem. And that's not an airy-fairy idea. That is a very complex idea that's 100% accurate. You cannot be aware of your need, your desire, or your want for something without the thing that you need, desire, or want being there at the same time. So what I learned about how I went from 20,000 to 62 was that the opportunity for me to go to 62,000 had been there the whole time, but I couldn't see it. My mind was so focused on what I didn't want and the problems that I had, I didn't know how to recognize an opportunity that would change my income. And I was following a bunch of rules that said that was impossible for that to happen. So that's the way I was living. As I changed my mindset, it changed my perception. And as my perception changed, I could see things that were totally different that were right there. That's how my income jumped. That's how everything in my life has changed since then, because when you think different, you see different. And when you see different, you understand different. When you understand different, you can do things different. So then the next law, so then you understand that no matter what it is that you need, it must be here and that it's very close to you right now because it has to be attached. It's the opposite side. So you say, I have nothing, I have something. If you look at the law as a horizontal line and you say, well, I'm going to use this law to describe money. On one side, you have poverty, one side, you have wealth. Okay. So what is the explanation of that polarity? What is it actually explaining? It's explaining abundance. Everything is in abundance. If you don't have the abundance, you're experiencing the poverty side of that idea. If you do, you're experiencing the wealth side of that idea. So the idea is that changes what side you experience is by what side you focus on. If I focus that the money's here, I will always find the money because it's always here. Okay. So wealthy people know this. They may not know it as a law, a universal law, but they know that's real. And then the last piece is cause and effect. Really understanding the law of cause and effect. So whatever effect you want to have in your life, you have to ask this question: what is the true cause of having that effect in my life? It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's health, it's wealth, it's great relationships, it's a business, whatever it is an effect of something else. What is the cause? And if I understand the cause and I do the cause, the effect is automatic. It's guaranteed. No luck involved because luck doesn't exist in the universe.
So do you find most people need too many answers before they take that step? They don't trust the inner guidance. And so they're not taking those nudges and those steps and the action to then get to that other side of their way of thinking and expanding and focusing on.
That's very true. That's very true.
No, that's really, really.
It usually the thing that makes the biggest difference is what the person really wants in their life. If they want to approach this like going down to the store and just buying something like a new pair of jeans to get rid of a small problem, it doesn't work that way because you're talking about changing the belief system that is operating your entire life. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to get it. But if you are willing to do it through a period of time with some concerted effort, you could change it so that the success that you want happens just as naturally as the problems that you experience now. Because everybody has problems, but they don't go out and try hard to make those problems happen. They just keep happening.
Right.
Well, success is the same way. Once you get that programmed in your subconscious mind, it just keeps happening because it's a different way of seeing, approaching, and behaving in the world.
It's incredible. We're going to link to your information. Can you just briefly share with us any programs you have right now? And actually, one quick question before we go. If a salesperson, for example, in that example, and what I'm understanding is if that number, let's say their goal was to make 900,000 and they made, I don't know, 400,000. In that example, if they didn't hit 900,000 and they're okay with that, is there a thermostat or not thermostat, their financial set point, is it not high enough? Do they have to raise it bit by bit when it comes to that example that we talked about? And
depending on their threshold for what they will follow through on, yes.
Right. So they have to figure
raise it more than you're willing to do. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So it's still a comfort zone and being in that there's a payoff being below there. That's not allowing this. There's a comfort there, like the no man's land almost. That's not allowing them to get to that next.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense. David, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate your time and fantastic.
Pleasure.
And where can people find you with your company, and how are you helping entrepreneurs as well?
So they could go to lifeisnowinc.com. That'll tell you what we're doing, what programs we have coming up. And if you really want to hear more about what we do, just go to the Successful Mind podcast and tune into that every week. And we do the best. I give the best information that we possibly can on the podcast to help people that either don't have the money or don't think they have the money, and to reach as many people as we possibly can. So there's fantastic information on that podcast.
Thanks, David. I can vouch for it. I'm going to put it in the notes. I love that podcast. So definitely inspired me to change my thinking, and really appreciate it, David. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.